have to suck at something before you can be good at it. Welcome to the River of Suck podcast, episode 5. I'm your host, Andy Reiner. River of Suck is real talk about struggles with confidence, self-doubt, and becoming the USU. My guest today is Jeremy Garrett, a member of the Infamous Stringdusters, a fiddler, a singer-songwriter, and a really nice guy. Hey, Jeremy, and thanks for joining me for this podcast.
Hey, Andy. Thanks for having me, brother.
I'm stoked to hang with you today. I first saw you play fiddle and sing with the Dusters in February 2006 at Club Passeum in Cambridge, Mass.
Wow.
I think it's fair to say the Dusters have come a long way since then.
We have definitely put a few miles on the road for a band, for sure. I guess we've been together now a total of about 13 years or something like that we've been doing it. So a lot of things happened in that time.
Nice. It's 13 years, and now it's 2019. That means I saw you the first year you were a band.
Boom.
I see big city lights and miles of highway, white lines they never seem to end, but they find a way to a beautiful place, back to see my best friend.
I saw you play with your dad, though, too. So you grew up playing music with your family?
Yeah, my dad's a bluegrass musician and plays guitar and bass and sings. He specialized in shape note singing, a cappella, church music. And so that's kind of where I got a lot of my musicality from. But my mom also loved to spin Michael Jackson records and Terrence Trent D'Arby and other soul singers. And so, I kind of had a pretty good, well-rounded music education, I guess you could say, growing up. And I started playing at, about age 3. So my dad would hum fiddle tunes and we would do that together. That was something we would always do. He didn't play fiddle, but the fiddle I have, though, he gave me, I guess when he was like 13 or something like that. He had a dog that was getting sickly and his parents knew that it was time for the end. And they didn't want to tell him. I don't know why they thought this was a good idea, but so they thought while he was away at school, they would take the dog and take care of what needed to be taken care of with the dog, and they brought a guitar back as a replacement, and it was, I think, pretty traumatic for him. And but he got way into playing the guitar, of course, and it sort of changed his life, I guess you could say. And he met someone down the street that she played this violin in the Philharmonic there in California, and she got cancer or something and passed away, and her husband had it sitting around, and he said he couldn't have it around because it kind of hurt his feelings or whatever, bothered him, so he walked down the street one day and handed it to my dad, and he said, "You'll know what to do with this." So that's what it sat in the corner the whole time I was growing up until I was, I guess, 11 or so. I'm big enough to play it. So
finally,
that's kind of how I got into it. Yeah, my dad. In Idaho, we didn't have a lot of money growing up and stuff, so we didn't take trips to festivals very often. There was the Weezer, Old Time National Fiddlers Contest. That was the big event that we would go to. But even then, I would go there and, play with the hippies in the sticker bushes, and that was my exposure to live music all year long. However you come to music, if you're inspired, that's a good thing. I think my dad definitely had influence over me in the sense that I sort of started out drawn more to traditional bluegrass and old school, bluegrass gospel stuff, I guess. I really liked that stuff growing up, and it got into my blood and my soul, and so it definitely permeates from whatever I do nowadays, even still.
Yeah, I can hear it.
But along the way, I also got into Guns N' Roses, and Appetite for Destruction was the big record when I was in my teens. And I can't believe my mom let me listen to that stuff. It was really explicit lyrics, even more now than probably what you would hear on the radio. But, I think she was really caring, and she just wanted to know what I was listening to, and she was cool about it, and that had its influence on me too. But I couldn't really see doing that with a fiddle. So it was fairly obvious that, I was going to go down the grass path, at least for a while. But, I've done some country and that kind of thing too, living in Texas for a couple of years. I went to college down there and played with a guy named Pat Green, so I did sort of the Texas country scene for a while as well. And and got a little more well-rounded when I got away from home, and into the bigger music world. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's kind of where I got my start.
Let's talk about the River of Suck.
Let's do it.
The River of Suck is a super wide mythical river churning with whitewater rapids, rocks, and thought piranhas. We are on one side. Behind us is our comfort cave where we can avoid risk but also growth. On the other side, we can see future versions of ourselves running around doing the things we wish we could do today. Only by swimming with the thought piranhas can we make it to the other side towards our impossible seeming goals. You have to suck at something before you can be good at it. The River of Suck represents all the hard work we put into accomplishing our goals. Everything happens in tiny increments, and those can be invisible even to us as we're making them. How do you see the River of Suck in music or in your life?
That's a really good question. As a musician, I dare say this is probably one of the hardest businesses that there is. And most of the time you end up being your own cheerleader, often. And you're the only one that will be in your corner cheerleading. And so you have to find a lot of self-motivation. That's the name of the game. And that comes from true passion about what you do. And if you really love it, that's a reciprocal thing. I feel like it drives. You won't give up if you really love and believe in what you do. You got to establish that first, I feel like, and in that question, you have to sort of measure that for yourself. What is it that you're trying to do? Are you trying to, make a living playing music? That's asking a lot, man. So how are you going to do that? How can you get there? And you just try these little steps along the way. And definitely, like most things in life, you got to take things as they come. You can't prepare for everything, as you say, maybe you can envision yourself on one side of the fence or, doing something ultimately what you want to be doing. But a lot of times the way life comes to you and you have to be open to it is maybe a little different opportunity that's a little off kilter from what you thought it would be. But yet it's still a really good opportunity, and the energy in life is sort of sending you down that path. So you have to be aware, I feel like, of that. But the obstacles come and they'll never stop coming. And you just got to be a total badass. I mean, you got to be Muhammad Ali against the punches, sometimes, and you got to just slug it out. And sometimes it seems bleak, and that's the dangerous, times, because when you feel like it seems bleak, it's hard to know what everyone else, how that's viewing. And then at that moment, it doesn't really matter because it's all about you in that time frame, where your headspace is and what you're going to do next. But a lot of times, as they say, the old cliche saying, the darkest hour is just before the dawn.
Sure.
So if you can keep your head in it and not get the blues get sucked down into the blues too much, a lot of times, if you really believe in what you're doing and you work hard, it'll come out in the end, and you'll have some kind of movement in your career. It's... For me, it's been never ending. I've been doing this for, 25 plus years, I guess, professionally speaking. Yeah. And, I keep thinking, that I'm going to be successful someday. And in other people's minds, I've been successful, So
right.
There is that, level of where are you drawing that line? What is satisfaction for you? And for me, I'll probably never be satisfied. I'll always be in pursuit of bigger and better opportunities to place my art in this world, And so I probably never give up on that. And so because of that, the energy keeps flowing. You got to look for ways that it goes. And then every once in a while you come up against those stumbling blocks. There are some rapids, and you got to be able to swim through them. I am really not good at technical things. And a few other things as well that you have to sort of be good at to be a part of this business in the entertainment industry. And so I've surrounded myself with people that are good at those things. And so that has helped me to be successful, just realizing that I really have some kind of mental problem and I cannot do any technical things for some reason on a computer and barely a phone. So because of that, I hand those things off and it's been good for me. I'll play fiddle instead. And that's what I do good and do the best. That's cool, man. I love that harmony part you do. It's awesome.
I almost got the top note.
I was never good at harmony stuff on fiddle. It's weird. I can sing harmony better probably than I sing lead, but I play lead better than I play harmony. You know what I mean?
Well, it's all part of a team.
Yeah, you get used to a function, I guess.
Well, maybe that's picking your battles, knowing your strengths, and
maybe so.
Going super deep that direction and not worrying about what you can't do.
That's
but
right.
Knowing what you can't do helps push you towards what you can do.
That's right.
Which is really cool. Some people just can't decide what to do and then they don't do anything.
That's a big part of it. Coming up with excuses to stop yourself from doing things, that's the worst.
Like I made a to-do list the other day that was so big I couldn't do anything because there was too many things to be done. So I sat there and did nothing.
Yeah.
Instead of anything.
I know exactly what you mean.
Oh man. Well, you said you're never going to be satisfied. If we were just satisfied with where we were, what's the fun in continuing? If you're just doing the same thing every night, I think that's part of what sends really great artists to the deepest reaches of figuring out who they are and what their art is, compared with people who, if you're just satisfied with who you are, the way you can play music, the way you can cook food, the way that you exist, then what's the point of going on? So I think that could be negative to some people. They're like, oh, I'm not where I want to be. But that feeling of not being where you want to be is the very thing that drives you to push forward.
Absolutely. For me, it is. I've always been driven in that way, from a really young age. I don't know if that's a personality trait or what, but I had my first job when I was 12 years old, earning my own money so I could buy my own, name brand clothing and stuff that, my parents weren't going to buy me that crap, but I wanted it. So they said I could have it if I earned my own money. And I thought, well, if that's all it takes, I'll figure out a way to do that, So I was, mowing lawns and doing this and that and buying my own fishing poles at, 13, 14 years old. And so early on, I sort of had that work ethic, But yeah, it's that drive that you got to have that drive for what you do in life. If you really want to love it and grow to love it even more, like I say, I'll never be satisfied, but the industry I'm in and the pursuit of what I'm doing as an art form is very satisfying to me.
Yeah.
It's very satisfying to have things really pay off, to have, my band is pretty successful band. And I feel like we have a long ways to go to realize our full potential. But, and I also feel the same thing. My own struggles as a solo artist is even deeper. I feel like I'm going back to the beginning of things and rehatching some of this old psychology because, going out there with the Stringdusters is pretty much, I gotta say, for me, it's easy.
Yeah.
I can go out there and just rip fiddle, no problem. And I know all the songs. I can sing all my parts. It's easy. Go out there as a solo artist, and now you are responsible for everything: the MC work, the vibe, all the instrumentation, the looping, whatever it is. That's my project. So that's reinvigorated this drive to grow this other thing for me. And yet along the way, I'm experiencing some deep growing pains. It's good for me because you can't help but gain an ego when you get into a successful situation. I don't think anyone can help that. But, so you go back to some other things and it's humbling and you realize, oh yeah, when you strip it all down, there's none of us that are anything. We're just what we're trying to make ourselves up to be. And especially in the entertainment industry, it's all about advertising what you're doing out there, and getting the word out. I'm in the current, floating down, and there's definitely some boulders and some rapids along the way that I'm having to watch out for, and rethink things. And plus, the industry has changed a lot since I did it the last time.
Right.
So now it's all about different things than I had learned the whole business, 20 years ago, a different way. So, it's a different ball game nowadays.
My best playing doesn't happen every day. Do you ever feel like you have days where it's easy, but days where it's harder?
It's different for me every day too. I feel like if you have a really good axe, a really good instrument that you play on, it makes all the difference. This fiddle for me has been the thing. I've been really lucky to have come into it, I feel like, and also just have an instrument that is so very responsive to what I do in the way that I do it. And it's taken me some time to get this thing also set up to where, it's right for me and all those things. But now after all these years, I've got it pretty dialed in. And I definitely used to have days where it was hit or miss, at first, especially, maybe especially when I was first moving to Nashville, I'd have days where I could play really good, and other days it'd be okay, and at best or whatever. At least I thought. But I feel like now I'm more dialed in than ever. Like, I feel more confident on my instrument. I mean, I play probably on average 4 or 5 hours a day, every single day.
That's awesome.
Either on, radio shows during the day or, the 3-hour shows that the Dusters do a night, plus, sound check for an hour, plus, maybe rehearsal as well. So, it's at least 4 hours, if not more, every single day that I'm on tour. And then when I'm home, I'm playing a lot then too, so just countless hours of practicing and rehearsing, even though I don't really have formal practice sessions per se on the violin anymore as much. I will on guitar and mandolin. I feel like I have to play those a lot to be fluid. But
right.
Fiddle, I've just done, it's seriously for me, I've been talking about as long as I've been playing fiddle.
Right.
And I can get better, I know, and I can progress, and I feel like I am. Every so often I'll hit another plateau and I can realize I'm definitely better than I was. But, it's also very natural for me, and it's not a struggle, in that regard.
If I'm not practicing, but I'm playing a lot of gigs, I'm learning stuff while I'm playing those gigs. I'm trying to stretch my boundaries. I'm trying to play new ideas. I don't want to play the same ideas. I don't want to play the same licks. So I'm trying to grow every time I'm playing, whether or not it counts as literal practicing. Yeah. Is that a part of it for you?
Oh yeah. I mean, I pride myself in never playing the same thing exactly the same twice. Yeah. I'm in an avant-garde bluegrass band for that very reason. That's what I started the Stringdusters. I was part of that.
Yeah.
Starting it for was to create a situation where I could do my songs and improvise the fiddle how I see fit, and not having to copy someone else's solos that were laid down or whatever. So. Yeah. That's always been, my interest, and so it's driven me to find these situations like the Stringdusters, where I could really be that person. And now my own solo thing where I could really even delve in further into what it is that I do, in that regard. So, yeah, I would just the countless hours, though, of just, sound check, trying a different break on something, just because I feel like it. I'm definitely learning and leaping. My mind is ever sort of edging forward on its education of how to get further down the road in music, and, to the point now where it's interesting for me. I had an experience a couple of nights ago playing with the Stringdusters at the 930 Club, and we all sort of experienced it. And I'd never have experienced this ever before. And I've been playing music with the most heavy cats, for years, like all these different people. I could go on this huge name list, of all these people that I played music with. Never have I experienced what I experienced with the band on that night. And it was just, we went in so deep. We were in a jam and we were all improvising. And we went in so mentally deep. It was the deepest trance. I can't even explain it. I'm, not a religious guy or whatever in that regard, but I could understand how if you had this experience, you could maybe say it was the Holy Ghost, because it was a super deep, like, spiritual experience as the music was going down. And it was incredible. So there's like a deeper tuning, that can happen besides just the execution of the instruments and playing in tune and time, or doing what's on your mind, mentally speaking. There's like a deeper part of it all that I'm starting to get into, and that's really fun.
It only took 13 years to get to that point.
It's kind of crazy. Why would it take that long? I mean, we've been concentrating so hard and, playing. It's hard. It's the best shows we could possibly play, all of us trying to play at the top of our game, but it finally clicks, It's just cool. It's just to me, it's refreshing because it just shows me that there's even more dimensions to go down, that we haven't hit them all for, yet.
Sweet. So in terms of your solo show, though, you mentioned that's less comfort zone. Do you feel like you're rediscovering who you are as a person, as an artist, as you set out and do solo shows?
Yeah, like I said, my role can be whatever I want it to be in the Stringdusters, but it tends to be a role, and that is a fiddle player and the singer and, songwriter. But like, I play fiddle, and now it's become and I love it. It's so much fun, but it's also kind of easy, I mean, it's hard to tour for 3 weeks and play, 3-hour shows a night. I don't mean that's easy. And I don't mean like being away from home is easy, but like while I'm on stage and I'm playing the music, it's easy. It's become easy for me. And I don't even get nervous now at all. It's just pure joy for me. It's fun, easy. But doing my own solo thing has woken me back up to the possibilities of being nervous and having butterflies and, and now, but I've done, probably 60 solo shows now, and that's starting to diminish and go away too. So, I'm getting more and more confident with that. But I liked that about what it was doing for me, and putting me on that edge. And I feel like that's sometimes really the best music that can be made is when you're making it on that edge. Aside from practicing your abilities and getting good at what you do, you have to do that too. But I'm talking about going deep into music. Like if you can play with that edge, not long ago I had a little funk band set up where I didn't know any of these musicians, and it turned out to where it just had some of the most fun I've had playing music in forever, because it was just so avant-garde. It was just like anything could happen, and I was just playing on that edge the whole time, but just having just the most joy.
This podcast is brought to you by one of my great inspirations in the world of music and life, a violinist named Christian Howes. Wherever you are in the world, you can listen to his Creative Strings podcast, a perennial exploration of intersections between creativity, music education, string playing, DIY music business, and culture. If you dig the musicians on River of Suck, you'll love Creative Strings podcast, so tune in wherever you listen for more amazing and diverse ideas. If you are a string player looking to bring your game to the next level, consider attending the annual Creative Strings Workshop near Columbus, Ohio. I have received flack for the following sentence, but I'm repeating it here for my trusted listeners because it is the truth. Creative Strings Workshop is the best week in the universe for improvising on a string instrument. I will be there teaching fiddle styles, improvisation, and jamming skills. Learn more at christianhowes.com. Let's talk song lyrics. I've had the privilege in preparing for this episode by listening to some of your newest solo music, which is currently top secret. One song, Going in Circles, had some lyrics that I thought related to the River of Suck.
Lyrics for a songwriter can be a few different things, I guess you could say. And for different writers, it's different things. Some writers are politically motivated writers. Some writers, write children's songs and whatever. Everybody has their specialty. For me, I would like to write songs about things that I've been thinking about, just things I've been mulling over in my brain, trying to work through. Things that I think other people will be able to identify with, For me, writing is really, for me first. It comes from a sense of healing, maybe, sometimes, or a sense of wanting to write about something happy or wherever it is that I'm coming from. But it's, usually starts out like as an inward sort of developed feeling. People have responded to other songs I've written in the past. And so because of that, I have this air while I am writing those lyrics down that how can I impart what I'm trying to say here in a way that will help someone, besides myself.
And it helps you work through those feelings.
Yeah, totally.
Here's a line here. Going in circles, never finding a straight line, makes you feel like a lost cause. That's how the song begins. But by the time you get to the chorus, if you're going in circles, start to dance. With nothing to lose, you can take a chance. Yeah. So for me, there's like a emotional change that happens in the course of that song where you start out being really frustrated, but then you start to pick yourself up.
Well, that's the thing, when you really boil it down, and you're in the swamp of life sometimes, it's easy to get dredged down. And I tend to write about things like that because I'm probably, I'm a different kind of cat, I guess, in that way. Like I'm often deep in thought, and I'm often melancholy or trying to be philosophical with my thoughts. I'm not trying to be, I just am. So with those things going on through your head, you got to gather all those things and have them kind of make sense. Hopefully you're imparting, like I said, an idea that someone's going to be able to identify with, and sort of glom on it. It turns out after you write a song, you'd be surprised how many people can identify with exactly what you were feeling that day.
Yeah.
And, that kind of gives you a perspective as a writer, like how powerful that tool is, and how important it is to sort of take that responsibility, in my opinion, and use it for good.
Do you think there's any solace in knowing that you're not the only one that experiences those feelings?
Yeah, of course. I mean, so oftentimes as a human in life, you think you're the only one, right? And then you come to find out there's all these other people that struggle with the same things. And that's the human experience. And it's hard for us all to figure out how to share that together, especially with all the distractions that we have going on in today's world.
Yeah.
But music is one of those ways that we can share that. And so, that is that woven thread that goes through all of us. It's part of that, and we can share things on that thread, and people, can pick that up however they want. Lyrics for me, I always feel like can mean something to me, and they might not be the same thing for someone else, and I try to, when I write my songs, I try to come from a standpoint of what I'm trying to write about, but also be sort of vague so that people can internalize that how they see fit, how they feel that lyric is hitting them. Mm-hmm. But, like in most of my songs, like Circles, I co-wrote that actually with Donna Ulysses, who's a great bluegrass writer too. And we wrote that together. And I really like writing with girls because, they're just better at feelings than men. And it's just the truth, and that's probably, maybe that's sexist. I shouldn't say that anymore, but that's just how I kind of...
Well, they're more used to talking about it.
That's it, or putting it into words or whatever in an elegant way, and whereas men maybe act out their feelings more or whatever. But I feel like, it's a really awesome experience to write with a talented lady writer. And so I feel like she brought a lot to that song. But also, I always try to have these things where I'm writing about the point that I'm trying to make. But then if it's dark on the verses, I want it to go somewhere positive, hopefully, on the choruses. Because I always want to leave people with a message of hope. It doesn't always work out that way, but that's my goal.
Doesn't work out that way in the murder ballads, eh?
That's right. Tragic life, probably. It doesn't work out that
the
way.
other direction.
I feel good. I felt strong about that track and that song. I decided to make it my title track, Circles, you know.
Mm-hmm. Like, I was talking to a scientist named Pacifica last week, and she was saying how when she gets stuck, that's when she starts talking to other people. So I feel like with songwriting, working as a team, it's almost comforting in a way because you don't have to have all the answers.
That's right. It makes it way easier, you know. I'm not a lazy person, but sometimes I kind of get in lazy modes, and songwriting is one of those things I feel like, because if I sit by myself and try to write, it's really hard. And so
yeah,
I can spend some time and maybe I'll come up with some cool riffs and a melody or something, but maybe I won't finish the song maybe in that session, you know, when I should just sit there for 3 hours. But you got somebody to write with, you have an appointment that like keeps you on task, you know, and you're with someone else that's creative. And almost every time I've ever written with someone else, I feel like it's been better than what I probably could have came up with on my own. Though I've written some songs that I'm proud of on my own, but I just feel like, you know, co-writing just adds this other aspect. There's all kinds of possibilities from it too. Like you say, it makes it easier. I mean, you don't have to have all the answers because someone else hopefully will have some.
Yeah.
And but it also, you know, in business wise, it helps you cross market your songwriting maybe a little bit more, you know, spread more things around, and it's just you trying to show your songs to everybody, you know. So,
yeah.
You know, there's a lot of benefits from co-writing, but I really enjoy it. I probably, you know, I've written hundreds of songs now, and more than half of them have been co-writes.
Oh, cool.
I'm a way better guitar player than I am a Mando.
Yeah, but isn't it like cool to suck at something once in a while?
No, actually.
It's not.
I hate sucking at stuff.
I know, but it's good. But you got to do it at home first.
Yeah,
and then you can bring it out in public.
No, that's for sure. I sucked real bad at looping and all that, and guitar, frankly, and mandolin too, and trying to. I mean, I was okay. I always had some chops on those things, but like until the last like maybe 5 years when I really started to develop the solo project idea. Then I realized, I got to get my skills way up from where they are in order to pull this off. And that's been the best thing, like having that, drive again. I mean, you can get lazy, in any profession, I guess. You just roll along and you can just write it out if you want to, maybe, I mean,
show up and make it up.
Although entertainment, you kind of have to keep it on the edge these days if you want to survive, in the long run. So you got to keep your game up.
Yeah.
But, finding new ways, like, and implementing a loop for a musician that's a trad musician that really has a hard time working a computer or phone, that's kind of a big deal, So I had to work that out for a while. And I finally feel like I have my act together on that, and I'm a little more relaxed about it all for sure. But
the thing I love about looping pedals is it really amplifies your personality. Anyone who does it sounds more like themselves than they did before. Yeah. It brings out everything that's good in your playing and everything that's bad in your playing.
It's incredible what it will do for you. You think you have good timing, but you don't. Until you lay down a loop and you realize you have to, the way I've been laying down loops, like 2 verses and a chorus sometimes to loop that and still be in time when it comes back around. And that's a long time to sort of go. So you have to like approach timing a different way. I definitely am a way better musician after sort of using it and putting it into play with my instruments and stuff. I've had to, compensate, gotten better at certain things. It's definitely made me way better for sure.
Yeah. But I mean, it wasn't always easy.
No.
That's all I'm saying.
No, yeah, you're right.
Gotta suck at something before you can be good at it.
That's right.
Just embrace the suck.
Gotta ride that out.
Doesn't mean we don't want to be awesome and sound great on stage. Just means we came from somewhere and we saw something in the distance. I want to be playing solo looping shows.
Yeah. Yep.
Now we're going to make it happen. We're going to figure it out. But yeah, it's nice when you can suck at something not in front of other people. I think that gives you a freedom that you don't have if you're trying to figure it out on stage. It's like
definitely a little more nerve-wracking for sure. You got to spend a lot of time in the basement trying to do
Yeah.
your work first and then take it to the people.
But people don't see that work that
Yeah.
you put into it. They just see the final product.
Right.
The point of this podcast is about that process, and like we all go through it. So
That's right. You can't get good without trying to get good. Yeah, that's true. You got to spend some time in the trenches, man.
I know a lot of people, including myself, have been discouraged at certain points when we hear people who sound amazing, and we're like, "Oh man, I'll never be like that." But for me, it's been finding, okay, phrasing. I have something to say. Maybe I'm going to play more rests here.
Yeah.
You know, you can actually say more using less notes.
That's
sometimes. Right. So,
well, it's important to keep in mind too. There's always somebody better than you. And if they're not in the older generation, like a lot of us fiddle players look up to Stuart Duncan,
yeah,
those guys all get older too, and their abilities will fade with time, just like ours will. And then there's younger people coming up through the ranks that are going to be killing us on our stuff that we're doing. I mean, I was listening to a Tony Rice interview today, and you think about how far that leap was from Jimmy Martin to Tony Rice, and then think of what's going to be going on, now with these kids coming up. It's probably going to be mind-boggling with what they're going to come up with.
So,
but you got to realize there's always somebody better, and you can't concern yourself with that because there's a place in the world for everyone. There's a place in the world for Stuart Duncan. There's a place in the world for Ron Stewart. There's a place in the world for Jeremy Garrett and Jason Carter. People like all those people, and it's okay to like more than one guy. If it was all just up to one guy, maybe Stuart Duncan would be that guy. But, I'm glad it's not. Luckily, there's a lot of tastes in the world, and not everyone likes his playing, and so, they might like mine better or
But here
versa.
at the River of Suck podcast, we endorse Stuart Duncan's playing.
Yeah, I endorse it very much too. So he's definitely, amazing. But, and you go through phases in your life too. Like right now, as far as like my fiddle playing and how I feel about it personally, like I've gotten to a point where fiddle feels more natural than it ever has for me. I feel like anything that I can think of in my brain, I can play.
In your own voice.
Yeah, given the some warm up and whatever, like, and in the moment of a show with the adrenaline going, I really feel like I can execute anything I'm trying to execute, and it's like almost easy for me. You know what I mean? This is I'm probably like the strongest player I've ever been right now. And I feel good about that because I've definitely gone through, peaks and valleys in the past.
So,
and
where do you see yourself in 10 years, your relationship with the fiddle?
Well, I hope it's even stronger, than it is now. I mean, the good thing about fiddle is it's a little lighter on your hands than some of the other instruments are. And so luckily for us, there's some really old, badass fiddle players, that can do it all the way into their old age, because it's not so hard on the body.
Right.
That's something I feel like I can look forward to because I really love to play fiddle and I want to play at this level as long as I can, and I feel like I'll be able to do that so far. That's cool. Where all the signs are pointing for me, and that feels good to be to a place like that. I didn't always for sure feel like that, man. Like, not even a year ago, I probably didn't feel like that. It's like,
oh man. So that's like
it's a recent thing. I always felt, I always felt good about my playing or cocky and try to keep my ego up to keep myself going in the industry. But like really now, and I mean, I'm not trying to brag about it or anything. I'm just trying to share with your people that I just feel like personally where I'm at, like, I feel like I'm at the top of my game and everyone will probably feel that at some point in their life, and you may think you are at one point, but like a couple of years down the line, it gets even deeper,
But I think what you're saying is the top of the top is not being the best person in the world at the fiddle, but being able to express your own self in the way that you feel it and have it come out on the instrument.
That's right.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So what would you tell aspiring artists or people or musicians?
If you have a dream and you really believe in it, you'll figure out a way. That's the cool thing about the human mind, like I'm a 40-year-old man and I went back to learning how to do like looping techniques and stuff, and I was proud of myself after figuring out how to use one of those machines, like, hey, you can teach an old dog new tricks,
Mm-hmm.
And so that made me feel good, and if you see something and you really believe in it, you can do it. I'm a believer in that. I used to have this poster hanging on my wall, and it's like this 80s sort of themed vibe with the skier coming down this hill, and and there's a caption that says, there is no challenge that cannot be met, and there's no dream that cannot be achieved. And I don't know where I came into this poster, but I had it hanging on my wall, and I still, anywhere I move, I put this thing out on my wall somewhere so I can see it.
Nice.
And it's always been super motivative for me just to keep those thoughts in my brain, and just realizing that I'm not a quitter and I'd never give up.
Yeah.
And if you can keep yourself, if you really are that way, you'll be successful. You'll make it.
I noticed a cellist just hanging out in the River of Suck podcast studio, so I asked my fiancée, Joy Adams, if she would join in on the fiddle tune Squirrel Hunters. For people who just met you on this podcast, where can they find your music and how do they find you?
Well, you can always go to that old Google and search the Stringdusters, and it'll take you there to our schedule, or go to our website, any of that kind of stuff. And you want to see a live show, you can find out about us there and listen to our music. Myself, you can check out my website, which is garrettgrass.com. Also have another website, which is fiddlescience.com, and you can go to those, and they'll tie together, and they'll kind of show you what I'm doing, what I'm into lately. But trying to steer people to Spotify these days, go listen to me there and sign up to be a listener, and just check it out, see if you like some of the other stuff I've done. And I've got a whole bunch of new music that's really, I feel like, more signature, my thing to be for quite some time coming down through the pike. So I'm excited to share that with everybody.
When's that new solo album coming out?
That'll be coming out probably either late August or the 1st of September, somewhere in that neighborhood, late summer.
And if you're in the future, this is 2019.
That's correct.
No one ever said crossing the river of suck would be easy or comfortable, so I want to thank you for tuning in and giving it a chance. I'll be back with a new episode every month, forever, so make sure to subscribe wherever you listen. Visit riverofsuck.com for all the latest updates on future episodes and guests. Become a member of the River of Suck swim team to support this podcast and access exclusive content, extended interviews, and high-quality downloads of music recorded for this podcast. My name is Andy Reiner.
And I'm Jeremy Garrett.
Till next time, keep swimming.
Yeah.